see. Are people? We have 3 so far. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll just wait a little bit until we can. Oh, hello.
People here. We are now got 1.
Yes. Come on in, everyone.
Welcome.
Hello. Welcome to our little Sunday afternoon talk. I hope you can hear us okay.
Yeah.
Just put in the chat if you can hear us.
Yeah.
And thank you for, coming and joining us on a Sunday afternoon. So that's great that we're not alone.
How are you today, Annalie? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, thank you. I'm all good. Yes, they can hear us. That's great. Afternoon from Sicily. Oh, Jane, you were with
Oh,
me. You were with me this morning as well in my talk. I remember.
we have a reoffender.
Yes. Yes. We have a reoffender. Oh, good afternoon from
Hi.
last country, Spain. Welcome. How interesting. I'm from Braintree, Essex, UK. Hello again, Kieran.
Fantastic.
Yes, from Milton Keynes.
Yes, very exotic and wonderful.
Very exotic, all very exotic. Hello from Sweden, Karen. Oh, I know Karen. Hello, so good to see you here. Good afternoon from Krakow. Yeah, I think Dominica, you were here this morning as well. A lot of reoffenders. Wonderful. Oh, Venice, Italy.
Fantastic.
Oh, Luna, hey, that was great.
Oh, I see, Annalie. I just saw one of those emojis that goes up on the screen.
It's very, very exciting. Oh, there.
The heart.
The hat. Yay. It's really nice, actually. You may not sort of realize, but it's really nice to see them when you're talking. It's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Welcome, everyone. I'm Annalie. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a Swedish teacher, I'm a course creator, I'm an author, and I am founder of Swedish Made Easy. And I started teaching Swedish about 15 years ago online to just get some extra cash, to be honest, while I was doing my PhD. About 3 years later, I set up Swedish Made Easy. And since then, I've been teaching many, many hundreds of adults from all around the world. And today I've got a lovely Stefan with me as well.
Hi, so I'm Stefan Holmström. Really nice to be here. Super exciting. I'm an opera singer, voice teacher, and an Estil master trainer, originally from the north of Sweden. I train singers and speakers from all genres to use their voices safely and with confidence here in my studio in Brighton. I also work at Guildhall School of Music and Drama and at the Mount View Academy in London. So I'm just going to share my screen here. I use Estil voice training as a baseline for my work. This is a scientific, evidence-based system for vocal development. We're looking at structures of the voice, training them in isolation to get conscious, predictable and reliable control of your voice. This is gold dust for performers, both speakers and singers, especially if you're like me or quite a nervous performer, knowing what you need to do, having that in-depth practical knowledge rooted in science and anatomy, physiology is really helpful. Knowing what to do when you're under pressure. I'm handing over to you, Annalie.
Yeah, so what we wanted to talk about today is we wanted to share with you the journey of developing our online pronunciation training course, Speak Like a Swede. And of course, you may have been to a few talks by now, so you know this, but obviously, if you have any questions, pop them in the Q&A and we'll come back to them at the end of the talk. So we're going to start to talk about what we feel is a problem in current language training when it comes to pronunciation, and why we feel this is an issue. And then we're going to share with you how our collaboration came about, how we came up with the idea for our course. After that, we're going to just explain a bit how we designed Speak Like a Swede and how we've decided what parts to include. And after that, we are going to share a little bit with you about our ongoing development work, where we've used an MRI scanner to sort of further understand what's going on anatomically and how it can help language learners. So when somebody starts to learn a new language today, they might start with dabbling in Duolingo, or they might watch some YouTube videos. And but after a while, maybe they feel like they want to progress, and so they might invest in a course book for that language. So they buy the course book, and then they turn to the first couple of pages, and this is what they see: the pronunciation guides. So here are some examples of pronunciation guides in some Swedish course books. They are usually completely text-based, and they're quite complicated and often really confusing, especially for beginners. So even if a learner is familiar with the International Phonetic Alphabet, it's actually not that helpful. So for example, some vowels in Swedish are a bit like the International Phonetic Alphabet, but they might be modified, and other sounds can look a bit like this. So, which is not very helpful for explaining actually how you pronounce these sounds. And we also, of course, have the classic listen and repeat method included in pretty much all course books and also in language classes. And this method is fine if the learner is a so-called parrot, as in, you know, they can hear sounds, new sounds, and immediately reproduce it. But as we know, most people are not parrots. Most people have certain habits, and they are used to using certain muscles in their vocal tracts to create certain sounds. That's right, isn't it, Stefan?
Yes, yes. And we're going to talk a little bit about that now, and also see how can we move beyond that first page in the course book. Quite frightening, I think. I think that what is really helpful here is to know a little bit about vocal anatomy and to have practical information around this. How do we do it? So pronunciation happens in the vocal tract. So I think, why don't we do some anatomy right now? Right, let's look at the vocal tract. Let's do a little bit of geography. So here is me in an MRI scanner. You see me in a cross section here, and down here is my larynx. And I have drawn in here, this wasn't actually visible in the scan, but I have drawn in my vocal folds that come together and vibrate to create sound that we use, of course, when we speak or when we sing, when we communicate. The pharynx is the space in the back of your throat, the oral cavity, so obviously the space in your mouth, and pardon me, the nasal cavity is the space in behind your nose. So the vocal tract is everything from your true vocal folds up with the pharynx, the hollow space of the at the back of your throat, the hollow space in your mouth and in your nose, to the tip of your nostrils, to the tip of your lips. That is what we call the vocal tract. In still voice training, we call this the filter, because it is very good at changing shape, and it can let certain frequencies through, it can hold others back. This is how we communicate, this is how we create vowels and consonants. So let's look at the vocal tract and the amazing movement you can see here. This is Timo Schnepf, a beatboxer who has been filmed in an MRI scanner. Let's take a moment and just enjoy watching what goes on in the vocal tract.
Hello, my name is Timo Schnepp and I'm going to perform a beatbox freestyle inside a real-time MRI. Here we go.
It's absolutely amazing, don't you think, Annelie?
I love that so much. It's so great. Every time I see it, I'm just amazed. It's just the shape of the tongue and the different forms of the space. It's just so great.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's like Piccadilly Circus down there, and very busy. And here is actually Anneli to the left and me again to the right. And here you'll see us in our MRI scanner as we say the count in Swedish. 1, 2, 3. Again, take a look at the vocal tract. What's going on?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Not quite as dramatic, but
We've got some work to do, Stefan. We've got some work to do.
but it's interesting. We can see here, can't we, guys, that pronunciation is movement in the vocal tract. And learning to speak a new language is to find new ways to move. Why don't we try this a little bit? What about this word? The Swedish word for government is regeringen. Why don't you, at home, wherever you are, say this word with me. Regeringen. Regeringen. Really taste it. What does it feel like? Try it actually without voice. Just mime it. What does it feel like? And with voice. Regeringen. It's quite interesting. Depending on your mother tongue, this might feel easy or it might feel more challenging. In still voice training and in Speak Like a Swede, we use the concept of attractor states. This comes from dynamic systems theory. It's a way to describe how complex systems interact, and if you like, settle into or attracted to points of balance. For instance, the weather is complex systems interacting and having certain, partly predictable attractor states. A classroom is another example of an attractor state. You know, a teacher and a group of students, all complex systems, right, will settle into a way of working together. I'm sure you remember from school that different classrooms had very different atmospheres. And a part of that is the attractor state, the way that the teacher and the children work together on a day-to-day basis. Our bodies are also a number of complex systems working together. We have deeply programmed patterns of muscle coordination. Our habits, if you like. So hang on, let me give you an example. So we'll try this. If you all cross your arms like you would, just say it, your normal way of crossing your arms. Great. Feeling good, Annalie?
Yeah, I'm there.
Now, what happens if we cross our arms the other way? What does... I'm struggling here. What does that feel like? So what I wanted to show you, I suppose, is that working your muscles in a new way can feel strange at first. So in languages, the attractor state from your native tongue determines how easy or difficult it is for you to move. For example, the tongue or the lips when you learn a new language. So I think we have quite a few language teachers here today. So from a teacher perspective, it makes sense, I think, to learn as much as you can about your students' attractor states, because it'll help you understand where they are coming from and what difficulties they are likely to encounter. Another thing, it is also important to be aware of your own habits, basically so that you know what you are teaching your students. It sounds obvious, right? I'm stating the bloomin' obvious here, but it's so easy to forget. For instance, I'm aware that I have traits in my Swedish which are Northern Swedish. So I think it helps me to be aware of that. And you know what, Annalie? I've been in Brighton for about 20 years now. So I'm also aware that there are English attractor states creeping into my native Swedish that I have to be aware of. And as a voice coach for both singers and speakers, talking of singing, I have to be aware that I'm a trained opera singer. Now, I work with singers from all genres, but I have to be aware that that is my attractor state, you know. And basically, if someone is an aspiring pop singer who works in contemporary commercial music, I have to watch out that I don't actually, without thinking about it, teach them to become opera singers. So I think there's a very attractor states is huge when you start to look into it. Don't you think, Annalie?
Yeah, absolutely. It is absolutely huge and so very important. So, well, speaking of music, so my PhD was actually in music research, and I've always been fascinated by the musical elements of language. So dialects, accents, stress, intonation, all those things, hugely fascinated. And I've also known for a long time that pronunciation is one of the things that Swedish learners struggle with the most. So, you know, Swedish people who are learning Swedish, they think that they're saying a Swedish in the right way, but they keep experiencing misunderstandings when they talk. So, and like I mentioned earlier, there are very few useful resources for pronunciation training in Swedish, at least. So I've been dreaming for quite a long time to create a kind of pronunciation course, some kind of pronunciation training. It's been a goal of mine for many years. Now, in 2019, I was very surprised to learn that there was a Swedish man who lived in Brighton, where I live too, who was an opera singer and a voice trainer. And I just felt I had to get in touch with him. I felt that it was a unique opportunity to combine our skill sets, me being a language teacher and Stefan, obviously, being a voice trainer. So I got in touch with Stefan. We had a coffee. And I floated the idea of doing some pronunciation training together. But you, Stefan, you were so busy at the time. You were busy with your choirs and you were busy with touring and so on. But luckily for me, in 2020, things were a bit, shall we say, quieter.
They were quieter then, weren't they?
It got quieter. Kind of spring 2020, things were better for me. So we started with offering a one-off live workshop on Zoom. We just wanted to test our ideas and see if anyone was interested, see what the response was. And it was great. It was really good. We had lots of positive responses from that experience. And it was so much so that we actually immediately got to work with creating our pronunciation training course, Speak Like a Swede. So shall we talk a little bit about how we designed it, Stefan?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite easy, really, wasn't it? Because it grew organically from that first workshop we did together. And well, in Swedish, tongue and lips work together as they do in all languages. But I would say in Swedish, there are sounds, particularly vowels, well, actually, and some consonants too, that need a very specific coordination, like y, oo, u, long and short sounds, y, u. U, 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 u. And we also use a wide range of pitch in everyday speech. For instance, if I was to say, just to show you, what do you want for dinner? And there is a Swedish chicken dish called Flying Jacob, Flygande Jakob. Vad ska vi ha till middag? What do you want for dinner? Flygande Jakob, kanske? Perhaps Flygande Jakob. And I just, if I was to sing that, it would be something like this. Vad ska vi ha till middag? Flygande Jakob, kanske? Vad ska vi ha till middag? Flygande Jakob, kanske? Quite a big range. Vad ska vi ha till middag? Flygande Jakob, kanske? That's just normal, isn't it, Anneli?
Yeah.
So to train these special, to tune up the larynx and the vocal tract to Swedish, we constructed some gyms for the the lips, the larynx. We constructed some gyms where we can do awareness training and muscle training that is geared especially for Swedish. For instance, looking at the tongue. So if this is the tongue, exploring the tip, the blade, and the back of the tongue. and then adapting this to pronunciation training. For instance, in that word we did together, regeringen, you remember? Regeringen. What is it that is actually going on there with the tongue? The tip. The blade of the tongue. Regeringen. Regeringen. So darting back and forth over the tongue like that is something that we do quite a lot in Swedish, and it requires awareness and training. So we look at each consonant and each vowel in isolation first. Most important is to get the vowel sounds right. So we have 9 vowels in Swedish, long and short version of each. So that's 18 sounds that are very important to get right if you don't want to risk being misunderstood when you speak Swedish. So if we take an example here, just to show you, if we take the Swedish word for a coffee break, fika. Swedish people love having a cup of coffee, perhaps with a yummy cinnamon bun. We have 2 vowel sounds here, a long E and a short A. E, A. E, A. Fika. Fika. So we start to look at vowel sounds first, then building into words, into sentences, looking at stress and melody, and then rooting all of this in spelling, pronunciation rules, and in hacks, what we do in daily speech. Annalie, can you tell us a little bit more now about the MRI idea?
Yes, of course. So when we did that first live workshop on Zoom, we included a clip that we'd found on YouTube, which was actually the same clip that you saw of this guy doing beatboxing in the MRI scanner. And we used this clip to, just like we did with you, trying to highlight that pronunciation is, of course, so very anatomical, and that the tongue is doing a lot of things inside our mouths that we can't really see from the outside. So we thought, oh, I wonder, there must be some Swedish MRI scans. We looked on YouTube, we looked everywhere, and we searched and searched, and we couldn't find any. So we thought, oh, what a shame that there are no similar clips, because we were then using this other one. And then we thought, what if we could do it? Didn't we, Stefan?
Yeah. Why not? And we started to look around locally, actually, and there were several places where this was possible. For instance, the Clinical Imaging Centre at Sussex University here in Brighton. We had to think quite carefully about what we wanted to see in the scans. It was a challenge for this department because they had to push the boundaries a little bit for how many images they could do per second, and also the just figuring out things like the resolution of the images. All of that took a little bit of time, took a little bit of establishing a collaboration, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so I thought it would be quite fun, Annalie, if we could share with everyone who's here today that day last year when we went to Sussex University and went inside an MRI scanner.
Yes. Let's have a look at that.
Ja, hej! Nu är vi på väg till Sussex University för att göra vårt MRI-projekt. Det känns lite pirrigt så här, för man vet inte riktigt. Vi har ju legat i hårdträning och jag har legat på golvet och mumlat svenska vokaler och ord och allt möjligt. Och det är ju det där, vi vet ju fortfarande inte exakt vad vi kommer att se.
Det ska ju bli otroligt kul.
Ja.
Och jag hoppas att vi lär oss något av resultaten, tänker jag.
Så här tror jag, så här hoppas jag, att vi får liksom bekräfta lite det vi har jobbat med. För det är ju en unik metod det här att jobba liksom fysiologiskt med uttal. Det är ju jättespännande. Och jag tror att vi kommer kanske se det vi har tänkt, fingers crossed, men kanske också få lite mer nyans på det.
Nu skriver jag
du på
den
streckade raden där.
Ja, det gör jag.
Och då är det ju no return.
Ja, nu
This
är
is
det
the
liksom...
point of no return.
Ja, nu kör vi.
Är du okej, Anneli? Lycka till! It looks very clear, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're nice actually.
Yeah. God,
Even we're quite surprised. They're nice,
funny,
aren't they?
because you guys would do this every day. I would think it's strange that we are so. This is just like normal. We're just looking. Okay, we're just looking at the person in cross section. It's fine.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, these are not the most detailed images.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no. Obviously the brain, like you can't see so much of it, but it's the most detailed for you, for what you're looking for. Can you take your shoes off? Yeah. Slide down the head in the bucket. Thumbs up. Just move so your head's at the top. Perfect. That's the alarm bell. Alright, so just squeeze out if you need it. Right, keep it on your head. Right, is the mirror in the right place for you to see the screen?
I can see the screen very clearly.
Perfect.
Long vowels.
Start.
Short vowels.
Start.
Lit. för det här. Men vet du, jag gillar att vara inne i skallen. Det var liksom som att vara inne i någon slags urmoders...
Ja. Ja,
Jag vet inte.
det är någon grotta liksom.
Ja, det var ju inte lätt. Det var inte helt lätt. Och den här masken går ju upp och ner liksom.
Ja.
Men jättespännande, verkligen.
Ja.
Yeah, that was quite a day, wasn't it?
That's amazing. It was great.
And I thought it was amazing to see the images and to realize a little bit more in detail what goes on in the vocal tract when we speak Swedish. We had help from the department to convert the images into MP4 files. I can show you what the files looked like that we received. So first of all, we got the footage that looks roughly like this, and it had no sound. So this is us in that video you all saw. 1, 2, 3. Then we had to sync those images with the soundtrack, and you hear a pounding noise in the background, ding 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 ding, and that is the magnet in the MRI scanner. So this is what that sounded like.
1, 2, 3.
So when we had synced our images with the original soundtrack, we then dubbed over. So we didn't have that pounding noise anymore. So this was our finished result. 1, 2, 3. Which is, of course, much more practical. We're going to use this to illustrate things for our students. So we were able to see tongue movements, for instance, that we can't see when we speak. And like I said in the video, it did confirm what we knew, and we did find nuances to what we knew. And in a few cases, it did actually prove us wrong. And that was a little bit painful to realize. I'm sure you all can relate to that feeling. But it meant that by digging deeper, we could get accurate, practical information at our fingertips, which obviously means that now when we instruct our students, we can be much more precise. So what do you, Anneli, how are we gonna, have you got any examples from how we are going to, oh good.
Yes, I do. So now that we have this much better audio quality, as you can see after we dubbed these video clips, we are now beginning to include these clips into our Speak Like a Swede course to reinforce what we're teaching in there. And I'm just going to show you a very quick clip of that, quick example of how we're using it on the inside.
Vi ska börja med långt i. Titta på mig i den här MRI-videon när jag säger i, vi. Och titta särskilt noga på vad tungan gör. I, vi. Så tungryggen är hög och långt fram i munhålan mot hårda gommen. Det här är alltså hårda gommen. Sidorna på tungan, på tungryggen och tungbladet är upp mot den övre tandraden. Och så har vi ett litet leende. I. Känn på det utan röst. Glöm inte bort att andas. Långt och kort ä-ljud. Vi ska börja och titta på en MRI-video där Anneli säger och äta.
Äta. Äta.
Vi är ju på en resa neråt med tungryggen, neråt och inåt från i till till ä. Så här är tungryggen mittemellan den övre och den undre tandraden. Vi har ingen kontakt mellan sidorna på tungan och den övre tandraden.
So this is what we are doing at the moment, isn't it, Stefan? We are working on incorporating these clips into the course to just really try and reinforce what we're teaching. And we are going to launch an updated version of this course as soon as we've finished all this work.
Yeah, and it's quite a lot of work. It's fiddly, isn't it? And fun.
Takes a long time.
Yeah, so perhaps to summarize then, we move different parts of the vocal tract to communicate. All these movements have an acoustic outcome. And it seems obvious that knowledge, the more we know about the vocal tract and about acoustics, is going to be very, very helpful the more we know when we are teaching or learning a new language. It's a practical approach. How are we doing this? And it also gives people options to choose. For instance, the word fika, that gorgeous Swedish coffee break, right? Fika, we had a long e, that e sound is sometimes pronounced differently in I agree. I also need
fika now. Yes. So I just saw that comment coming up here.
But that e sound in fika is sometimes pronounced differently in Stockholm and sometimes in Gothenburg. We have what we call the leading where the e sound is made with a different part of the tongue. Fika versus fika. And so when you have more of this knowledge and this practical wider grasp of the language, and you see what options you have there, you can then choose, what, for instance, which E would you like?
Yeah, exactly. You can choose. And I think also, just to summarize as well, it's just a way for people to really feel what Swedish sounds like in this instance, to really feel it physically so that you don't have to rely on your ear. Because like we said, most people are not natural parrots.
Absolutely. And should we share people, before we go on to questions, should we just share perhaps some contact details in case people want to get in touch with us if there are further questions about teaching Swedish, about vocal anatomy,
yes
anything around.
Yeah, anything around this. So stefanholmström.co.uk. I have my website here. Actually, I should put out swedishmadeeasy.com as well. So yeah, any of those, if you want to get in touch with us, is a good starting point. We're also on Instagram. I'm there at Swedish Made Easy, and you are there as
Stefan. I am Stefan Voice Teacher.
Right.
So look us up, follow what we're doing. We are going to talk a lot about this, I think, Anneli, as we go on to release our updated course.
Absolutely, we are.
Should we dive in? I see we have a few questions already in the Q&A section. Should we do a little bit of...
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
have a look, see if there's anything that we can answer. Yes. Will we have QR of the slides? Oh, so you mean like a copy of the slides? Is that what you mean? Well, I guess we could send us an email. Send us
Yes.
an email on that one.
I
Yeah.
think the best thing is probably to, because we don't want to particularly share, I don't think, our MRI movies, but
No.
I think, isn't this talk going to be on replay if
Yes.
people want to access it?
Yes. Yes. It will definitely be on replay for 3 months, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, that's
So you
amazing.
go-
So there's
go
always
back.
a chance for everyone here, or if you know someone who might be interested in this, get them to visit the replay.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Does breathing technique affect? I think Stefan is the one to answer that, if Annelie allows. Yes, definitely.
Oh, that's a big one. Breathing, of course, breath is the fuel, if you like, of your voice. That is what sets your vocal folds vibrating. And so you need we need breath in order to produce voice. I think that is slightly separate. I don't think that breathing per se, well, breathing is part of speaking and a part of preparing to speak. Of course, it's very important, and this is what I also, you teach breathing. I teach breathing when I work with singers or speakers. But when we are working with Swedish pronunciation training, it is breathing. It's not really part of that game. I don't think it is super useful to do that unless you are working with someone who is going to do public speaking, or a broadcaster who needs that help with their actual vocal production. I don't personally believe that it has a big value in actually learning pronunciation, I would say. I hope that answers the question. It's very hard. You can't detach breathing from a language, and it's integral to it. But it's not part of our teaching of how, for instance, the tongue and the lips moves.
No, it's very much about, I think in Sweden, and this will be different in different languages, I suppose, but well, we can only speak about the Swedish side, I guess, at the moment, but the lips are very different, important, I mean.
Yes. I mean, I had here a further comment from Agnese, but for teachers, of course, as a teacher, if we go into that kind of side of things, if you're a voice user, teachers are heavy voice users. If you're the kind of effort you use when you produce voice and how you are breathing, of course, will affect your vocal health and your vocal stamina during a long teaching day, during a long teaching week. So it does matter, but I wouldn't put it in the first room for pronunciation training.
I can see another long question from the same person about I need to get my tongue right. Neurolinguistics IA programs and softwares, and how can we be sure that the range of mistake when softwares are developed would allow some so I think this kind of question, so kind of like, can we trust AI and the development of softwares to kind of correct pronunciation? I've seen a program like this. I keep getting it all the time on Instagram, like adverts for it, obviously, because I post things on pronunciation and I can't remember what it's called now. But I don't feel like I'm qualified to answer this question, because I know very little about the development of softwares and kind of artificial intelligence and that kind of thing. So I think it's a little bit outside of my scope, and possibly yours as well, Stefan.
I think so. I would have to be absolutely honest, Agnese, I would have to see your questions and perhaps read it through and see what we can email you perhaps an answer. I think it is quite, we need we need to have a little time to think about this.
Yeah, but it is super, I mean, it's super interesting and definitely something to think about. Yes, maybe another speech for next year.
Yeah.
Quite possible. Okay, I'm just gonna pick up Lorenzo's question here, which is specifically about Swedish. Swedish is a tonal language. Do your students have a hard time getting Swedish tones and intonation right? I think we can answer quite confidently, both of us. Yes.
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 If you take for instance that little examples, Lorenzo, that I did, vad ska vi ha till middag? Flygande Jakob kanske? That is a range of more than an octave and a half. And English also, for instance, as a language uses intonation, of course, but the range is much smaller. So I'm not saying that English is a monotone language, but it uses less melody than Swedish. So coming back to attractor states, an English person might feel quite silly going as far as you need to go with the Swedish melody. What do you think, Anneli? You teach many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And we practice this and they kind of read something and we practice intonation and they read it a bit like this and then and then I say, like, try and go up a little bit here and try and go up a little bit there and really exaggerate. And then they read it a little bit like this and then and it's like, well, that's only half, that's a semitone. It's not, not the range that we would expect in Swedish. So yeah, it's definitely going against. And a lot of people actually say that they feel like they're taking the mickey. They feel like they're making a parody of Swedish people. And I say, no, as soon as you start to go up with the intonation range like that, you sound very Swedish indeed. So yeah, but that is just that kind of expression of how strong the attractor state is, I think.
And I think also that's where our gyms come very handy, that we are learning to, we're exploring a bigger range. And I think in our updated course, we're even going to get people to sing, to feel how much range you can use. It's super interesting. And just as an example from Swedish, we talk about the vowel sounds. Very important. Yeah, what about, of course we learn vowel sounds. No, the Swedish vowel sounds are really important because long and short sounds can be quite different, and there is the idea, isn't there, the risk that you are misunderstood if you get it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes, there's loads of examples where if you say it with a long vowel sound, it means one thing, and you say it with a short vowel sound, it means something else. It's a different word.
And I was also thinking about the melody. There are, for instance, words in Swedish where if you go up at the end, it means one thing, like tomten, which is a Swedish word for Santa Claus. And if you go down at the end of the word, tomten, it means a plot of land.
Yeah.
So there. Again, there's a risk for misunderstandings in Swedish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take the step and try these things.
Stefan, we have a request for a little bit of an explanation of the Lidingö I. The Stockholm I sound. And it's not just Stockholm, actually. It's well, we've talked a lot about this sound. You can find it in some areas in the archipelago in Gothenburg, outside Gothenburg, and also famously outside of Örebro, a town in central Sweden, but also on this famous island outside of Stockholm called I would say Lidingö, but Lidingö. Lidingö. So do you want to just do that quick kind of explanation of how?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we come back to, yes, we are successful in teaching people how to do this, but it is also, of course, depending on how good you are at coordinating how you move your tongue. So, for instance, so if this is the tongue, you remember tip, blade, and back. So our normal E, as you saw in the MRI footage, is made by the back of the tongue being quite high and forward. E. The leading is made with the blade. The leading E is made with the blade. That's a T-shirt, isn't it?
That's totally a T-shirt or a bumper sticker.
So it's how good your coordination is with this part of the tongue. You can see it with when I do it, can't you? E, It's a blade thing.
It's a blade thing.
It's a blade thing.
Yes. Very, very interesting. I think I think we should have a think about these questions about kind of softwares and stuff. That is definitely an interesting thought, but not one that I feel confident sort of going into right at this moment. Because I know very little about how these programs work. But
so are we talking some sort of way of automating
I suppose so, yeah.
It sounds like there are too many human factors in it to make it. I don't know. Have the comments from Lorenzo? It must be really hard to get the full range.
Full range of intonation with the larynx, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always say, Anneli, that you work with what you find comfortable. Not all Swedes use a huge range, but it's about finding your comfort level and then perhaps starting to work a little bit higher and a little bit lower too, and exploring that, and that sees you a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed. Yes. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for your questions and for listening. This has been so great. I hope you've found this fun, interesting, maybe. I'm like, the light is going down here, so I'm getting a bit dark.
Oh,
the light. I'm disappearing.
Yeah,
but thank you.
Yeah. No, so just say it's been absolutely wonderful to be here, and if you want, please use the replay to revisit the information and get in touch if there is anything we can help you with.
Yeah, absolutely. You know where to find us. stefanholmström.co.uk, anneliharke.com, or swedishmadeeasy.com, and also on various social media platforms, Instagram, for example.
And something that strikes me is very powerful. This, like when you say, can you get someone to do the leading it's quite hard to do that sound if you don't know how to do it. To just do it, as a parrot. As a parrot. So when you actually show someone, no, but this is how you do it. You do this, and you get that sound, right? Remember, you move your vocal tract in this way, you get that acoustic outcome, and it's a leading and and that might be quite important. If you're living there, you might want to, as human beings, we want to belong, don't we? We want to belong. We want to be part of a tribe, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course we do. It's
also about embracing all the different sounds that we have in Swedish.
Yeah, and like you're saying, getting a choice that you can choose which one you want to use.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you again. Thank you very much for coming and for listening, and keep in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're logging off now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.